pleased today to welcome three candidates for the Deschutes County Commission to join us and make a brief presentation. I know that several of these have gone through a variety of debate formats, including a presidential style format, which I found a little humorous, but today I was thinking that it might be more appropriate to give them a bit of time to be able to just chat with us. And so the way we're going to do this is basically each of the candidates is going to have an opportunity to take about 5 minutes and talk about their vision, their interest in currently serving as commissioner or becoming commissioner. After that time, we'll have an opportunity for Q&A to give them an opportunity to respond to concerns, questions that we might have. So with that, we did an informal drawing. Phil, you were the odd man out, and you didn't get first, so you're okay. The first speaker is current commissioner running as Democrat, Alan Unger.
Thank you, David. And thank you all for being here today. It's my honor and privilege to be your county commissioner for the last 4 years, and it's been my honor and privilege to be your mayor the 8 years before that. And while I was mayor, I just want to say that Councilor Irv Nygren was on the council then, and Irv did a special thing for us. He was the glue that really kept council together, so that as we made decisions, they were decisions that we all agreed to, so that we left a clear message on where we were going and what we were deciding. And I think that was very valuable, and I want to thank you, Irv, for all the work that you did for the city when you were on council. Well, and we did a lot when we were on council at that time. We created an urban reserve, a 50-year plan to the future. We developed a 20-year urban growth boundary expansion with new neighborhoods. We did that within a year. We did an open process so that we really didn't have anybody come forward and challenge it. The airport was expanded, the school bonds were passed, the Highland Glacier couplet was built, the reroute was built, the Maple Street Bridge was built, the sewer treatment plant was upgraded. It now has 30% capacity to attract new industry. The Desert Rise industrial land was purchased from the county and is now their city-owned to be in the mix to attract industry to Redmond. And I can say that through our work, Redmond is open for business. We created a culture there at City Hall that if you went in there, you got prompt attention and you got a quick answer. And I know that as Central Oregon Trucking chose to stay in Central Oregon, chose to come to Redmond, what they told me, especially Bill Smith, who was part of it, was they had to choose between Reno and Redmond was right there, competitive, and did the things they needed to do to keep Central Oregon Trucking in their 100 jobs in Redmond. I was glad to play a part in that. I testified to the Oregon Transportation Commission of the need for jobs and what it does for Highway 97. But what am I doing for you today? Well, I'm on the READY board. I support John Stark and what activities are there. I connect the county to Redmond. Senate Bill 1544 was passed in the legislature. Good job, Redmond. That gave OSPR, Open Space Park Reserve land on the east side of Redmond, 400 and some acres to be changed from Open Space Park Reserve to industrial land. Half of that land is owned by the county. On that land is the Rod and Gun Club. So what do we do to move it forward? I think that's our charge. Before the next legislative session, we need to have that land rezoned and open for business, ready for industrial development. So I've got a lot of work to do to figure out the Rod and Gun Club and to go through that zoning process. Rail, we've always known that rail goes right through our town. It's how we got started back with the Great Northern Railroad and Mr. Hill. But now the railroad wants to roll through, doesn't want to stop. But we have a short line. We have it connected at O'Neill Junction. I've been working for years to try to grow that. We have expansion at that point. We need rail to be here in Central Oregon so we can attract those heavy users of freight, and We also need to figure out how freight gets off the highway. If you travel around Oregon, you know that half the cars on the truck aren't cars, they're trucks, and they act like 10 cars, so that's part of our transportation issue. North Campus, the county is looking at consolidating services in Redmond with the County Public Health and Mental Health, with Department of Human Services, and bringing a mosaic federal low-income clinic to Redmond. We're looking at putting that all together in one building so it's a one-stop shop. And you know we have this opportunity on the South Highway with the Design Center. I want to tell you we're also looking at Redmond, talking with City Council. We might have another option that we could bring forward to you that saves a historic building downtown and brings 100 jobs downtown. So it hasn't happened, but we're working hard at that. I know back when Candy was working with me, we worked on child care. We knew we needed it for families and we needed it for business. If you're worried about your kids, you're not going to be spending all your time and interest at work. And you might be more absent. So we finally, as we went through child care, one more minute, good, I'm almost through. As we went through the different types of child care, we have hit on a child care network, which is bring those home providers together, lift them up, educate them, help them talk to each other. We have this network in Redmond, it's growing child care, and I think that's a great thing, and I really enjoy being part of that. And I think me being at the table really has helped it happen. So I'm here every day. I live next to Walmart, the closest neighbor, and I care about Redmond, and I ask for your vote to continue serving you as your representative of Deschutes County. Thank you.
There are two candidates running for the Republican nomination for County Commission, and we'll first hear from Phil Henderson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me at this forum. It's one of the things that's been really great running for office is getting out to the various communities in Deschutes County and meeting various people. And some of you I've seen at other functions, and I hope you keep introducing yourself to me when you meet me, because it's hard to remember everybody's name. But I really think that's a big part of running for office and being your county commissioner. I'm going to start with really what Alan said. I'm going to just say that I think Alan's done a great job as the mayor of Redmond, and I think he's done a good job maybe on the county commission for Redmond. But you know, Deschutes County is a lot bigger than Redmond, and I think what we need, and I think that's one of the issues in this race, is we need county commissioners that have the capacity and interest in representing all parts of Deschutes County. And I made that commitment wherever I've gone, whether it's Little Pine in South County, Bend, Sisters, any of the rural areas, the farmlands, to really try to represent all interests throughout the region. I grew up in Hood River. I'm a 5th generation Oregonian, and I have my biography here on this if you want to take a look at it. You know, my family's been involved in the state of Oregon a long time, and I've been interested in running for office really since I was Chase and Colin's age. When we were in high school, I don't think we knew anything about tax deductions. I think we were all studying politics. It was the early 1970s, and it was a time of probably as much political interest as there is today with the kinds of problems we're having at the national stage. I mean, back then it was Watergate, and it was the first oil embargo, it was the impeachment of President Nixon, etc. And that's what really drew me to an interest in government and political science, and I was valedictorian in my high school class and went to Yale University from Hood River and studied political science and studied national energy policy, which is kind of the same today as it was back then. In terms of the issues seem to be the same. We have the same crises we had 40 years ago. When I came back to Oregon, I thought about being involved in politics, but I decided to be an entrepreneur and a business person, and so really for the last 35 years, that's what I've done. I went to law school at University of Oregon and practiced law for 14 years in Bend, which is what I did when I first came here. In the last 9 years, I've been in the home building business. I was head of sales, then president of Sun Forest Construction. We built hundreds of homes at Eagle Crest, at Versada Ranch, at Pronghorn, Sun River, Crosswater, all the different resort communities. And then last year I had my own business. And I think what I really bring that's different for Deschutes County is really a business bent. I have a lot of business experience. I've done a lot in business. I understand balance sheets and bookkeeping. There's two things I really disagree with on the current county. One is that I really don't understand why in the midst of a recession our tax rates have gone up every year. If you've owned a piece of property more than 4 or 5 years, our tax rates keep going up and our property rates keep going down. And I just think that a county commissioner needs to be looking at that and the cost of government and really scrutinizing that. And I helped a company survive and make a profit at a time because we reduced the cost of our business, we reduced salary and benefits, and we made the company survive that way. And I just don't see that kind of mentality at a governmental level. So I guess the second thing I would kind of disagree with the current commissioner is that I think it's a time for a change. I think we need somebody with a strong business head, a strong business background, and somebody that represents the variety of communities in the county really well. And I would work very hard for you to do that. I think I bring a lot to the table for all of you. I'll be all of your representatives. I'm very accessible. I'm very thorough. In preparing for this, I've spent a year collecting, newspaper clippings on the issues, reading the county commission minutes. I've met with most of the department heads. I've really made an effort to get this prepared so that when I hit the ground, I'll be able to represent you. And I think finally, in closing, I think really the economic development jobs, I just want to reiterate, is so important. And for people in my age group that have put their stake here in the ground to say this is where we're going to live and build a retirement essentially and get to the point where we can afford everything, we need a strong economy. And we've lost over 10,000 jobs in the last 5 years, and you need leaders that can really focus on that and do that for you. So that'll be part of what I bring, and really appreciate your having us here and getting out and meeting you. So thank you.
The other candidate running for County Commission, the Republican ticket, Tom Greene.
Thank you, David, and everyone to take the time and learn and to make a responsible vote. It's good to see a lot of good friends here too that I've met over the years. Dick and I used to fly search and rescue, and we were having fun reminiscing about one of our last missions, finding a ELT that went off over in Burns, and that was a lot of fun, and flying those days and doing that kind of stuff. I believe that you want a commissioner who has experienced difficulties in the current market, both in the private and the public sector. We have all seen how this recession has affected the county's economy through foreclosures, short sales, and unemployment. High unemployment still sits with us. I believe we must diversify the community economically so it is more resilient. As a proven leader, I know and will lobby the correct people in the state of Oregon and the federal delegation for legislative changes that will enhance our own ability to fuel employment and long-term stability. We must pursue and establish actions that provide opportunities for all citizens to work, live, study, and prosper right here in Deschutes County. Probably just like you, when I was young, I was taught by my parents, grandparents, teachers, and scoutmasters that you always leave a place better than when you found it. In other words, pick up the other guy's trash. I know right now I'm a current city councilor, and I'm leaving the city in a better budget shape at the end of this year, personnel position, and well thought out ordinances and code changes than when I was first elected. I ask for your vote to give me a chance to do the same at the county. I too, like Alan, attacked on many fronts and was on the team that showed Senator Beyer around the site in northeast Redmond and got him to sponsor the bill along with Senator Telfer and Roger Lee from EDCO. I sit on the EDCO board to get that legislative thing in it, but it takes many coordinated fronts, and Alan attacked it from his side, and I know we attacked it from the economic development side. We must look for more ways to lower government expenses through consolidation and build on the consolidation efforts that I've already started. Why should residents fund multiple road departments, sign shops, fire departments, and so on, even visitor centers? If we can move business to the private sector, it needs to be done, and it should be done. The tax burden must be reduced, and I will find ways and ask questions to do that. I ask you to vote for a candidate who has proven effective for the last 4 years as a city councilor. During my term on council, we have lowered healthcare premiums by 1/3, maintained a high level of productivity while reducing staff over 20%. Plans have been developed for safer streets and ensure adequate water supplies for the next 100 years. Infrastructure is aging and rapidly falling apart, and it needs replacement. These are expensive undertakings, and sound management and managed approaches need to be taken and spread those costs out over the longest term period. We must bounce back with jobs, and I can help create an environment that will attract new business while effectively helping those that are already here. I want to use my experience and successes on the Deschutes County Commission and engage the community. It's together that we're going to fuel and find the answers to our problems and move forward. I'd like to move on to one other area. Yesterday I received a mailing at my house, I would have scrubbed the list a little bit, from my opponent, the Republican side, and he accused me of, as he puts it, voted to spend $25 million on a city water system without having all the information. Now, how silly is that? It really sounds like it's an idea starter, but I need to tell you that it's just not true. There have not been 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 specific engineering studies and reports that all came to the same conclusion. In addition, I personally met with value engineers last October and this February, and when I voted to spend that money, it's to create jobs and ensure a water supply for the city of Bend for the next 100 years. So when you read those type of things, if you were the recipient of one of those, don't believe it, but if you want to ask questions about it, please give me a call. I thank you very much and do ask for your vote.
Opportunity now for us to ask any questions that we'd like of the candidates, and who would like to start?
I got one. For Ellen. Ellen, compared to when you went into government 4 years ago and today, what's the total employment count at the county?
You mean the county employees that work for the county?
Yeah.
We have about 800 plus employees today. We had about 10% more when I first went in. That's when things just went down, down, down. We have adjusted the county employment to meet the service level we need. That means we have reduced community development staff by half, but we've also gotten more money to provide service for mental health, so we're hiring people to support the mental health services we give. But on the whole, we've gone down about 8%.
Yes.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Yeah, I've studied the county budget for about 6 months now. And actually, 4 years ago, there was 889 full-time equivalents. At the end of last year, there's 859. So that's 30 less employees, according to the county budget. So that's like 4%. So it really hasn't reduced that much, and the most of it's been out of community development. And the thing that concerns me the most is that the actual budget and the tax base has expanded every year through this recession with no stopping. And so there's been no cutbacks in salary and benefits and things. So.
If you know the budget, what is the budget now versus?
Well, last year's budget was about, I think, $267 million, but there's kind of a double accounting in that, and so, as I understand from the finance director, about $160 million of that is actually the revenues you take in. When you read the budget, it's reallocated and stuff, so about $160 million. And it comes, from a whole variety of sources. There's a lot of money. I mean, things like the health and mental health department come primarily from state funds, and then others comes from federal funds and that. So.
Tom, any comment?
No, not at this point.
Another question?
Phil, you mentioned for the last year you've had your own business.
Yeah.
What is that business?
I own Phil Henderson Homes, and I'm building a custom home in Caldera Springs, and then I have contracts to build 2 other houses, actually up in Madras next year. So that's what I've been doing.
Other questions?
I have a question for Tom.
Okay.
You mentioned legislative changes. What are you suggesting?
Well, I think it's real important. 80% of the land in Deschutes County is owned by the state or the federal government, and a lot of it's national forest, which effectively we are prohibited from using that land for employment purposes. We've just been blocked out of it. Right now, Congressman DeFazio and Walden are working at bills in Washington to try to open up that area for employment. It's estimated right now we can put 10,000 people back to work in our forest, smartly and efficiently logging, doing selective logging and being, you know, protective of the environment, but it's a way to fuel employment. So, but it takes legislative changes both in Salem and in Washington. So that's one area.
Phil, any comment on that?
Well, I've been advocating for that during the campaign as well. I think that we need the timber product, there's large sections of our national forest that are way overgrown, and you don't see them along the highways because they're kind of making that nicer if you drive to Sun River or whatever, but if you go off the roads, they're not being maintained, and we're not managing our timberlands like you do it if you owned it yourself. We're just letting so much of it get being overgrown and stuff, so anything we could do with that. And I do think that a county commissioner is in a great position to advocate for the economy and the government, the people's interest in this area for that in the state.
No?
When I first became a commissioner, I went to Washington, D.C. I lobbied for a collaborative forest restoration project that was to restore the forest from Black Butte Ranch to Mount Bachelor, what we see when we look at the mountains every day. I got it, I was successful, $10 million. Now I'm the steering team chair, and we are putting jobs in the forest to put logs to the mill, to thin, to mow, and to burn so our forests can be in a restorative state that can manage fire and not just burn up. So yes, we have jobs in the forest, and yes, we have logs in the mill.
Other questions?
In the state senator race Republican race between Tim Knupp and Senator Telfer, there's been a lot of discussion on the gas tax that Senator Telfer supported. I'm curious, if you were in the same position, all three candidates, would you have supported that gas tax, knowing that it would have brought $50 million to the county, and in particular approximately $12 million to downtown Redmond?
I think the gas tax is a no-brainer. When you look at the cost of gas, yes, it's very high, but it's not the tax that makes it high. It's a commodity. It goes up with the price of oil, how many refineries are there, supply and demand. So I'm appreciative of Chris supporting, and I hope you vote for her, to support the gas tax, to add back 6 cents plus other fees to bring the value she brought to Central.
I'll respond. You know, I think about 50 cents of our of the gallon of gas apparently it goes to various gas taxes, federal and state, and that's a lot. But it, as said, it's only a portion of the whole. I mean, it's really not what's driving up the problem. But the real problem with government growth, and I see this with property taxes or state taxes, is that the people, by and large, that are working at the different government entities, whether it's the city of Bend, which Tom talks pridefully of how they've reduced costs, but the average salary and benefits package is over $100,000 at the city of Bend. The average salary and benefits package at Deschutes County is over $94,000 per person, 850 equivalents. And so at some point you have to cut off taxes, and I think that's what Tim is saying, or else it just gets spent. And so I guess that's the question. But I think I'm a little bothered by the suggestion that she was doing it along with Democrats when really apparently it was a Republican bill, and so that makes it all more complicated in terms of what, and I think that's the problem when you go to, it's the difference between the county commission and Salem is Salem, it's very complex when you make policy. So.
Well, I see it, similar, like they say. The only thing I was upset with that was that the state took the ability away for local jurisdictions to pass a gas tax until 2014, and I would have rather had seen the local jurisdictions decide if they need that money, because there's a lot of traffic going up Highway 97, so people from outside the area could help pay for our road structure that way. But we were robbed of that ability, so that's the only thing I would see against having that. And I think we could have gotten much more than the 50 million or the 12 million if we would have had local control, but then you, the voters, would have decided whether you wanted to do that. Now, Phil's real good at talking about what unions have negotiated in their contracts on a per-person basis, but when you look at overall personnel cost, again, we're down 20%, but our budget in the city of Bend on a biennial basis is down $100 million. The unions won't let you, they prefer to let you reduce the number of full-time equivalents rather than their benefit packages. And unfortunately, we got a labor board in Salem that gets to negotiate those things for us. And so on a per-person basis, definitely I agree. I wish there was some way we could quash that and go back and renegotiate on par with what's in the private sector. But realistically, when you look at the whole budget, there have been reductions. Thank you.
I just want to rebuttal about this because I think it's the job of the elected officials to do these negotiations. And right now, that's not how negotiations are done. It's turned over to an administrator and a lawyer. And I think if it's ever going to change, there has to be, the elected official has to be the one that's out there. And I've heard this on both levels of government that, oh, we can't do anything. Well, how, maybe we're not going to do it this year. Someday we're going to do this because we can't sustain these costs at these levels. We're doing just the opposite of what the private enterprise does, which is you lower salary and benefits and you keep more people working. In the government, what you do is you just lay more people off and you keep the high salaries and benefits. And I think your elected officials have to be the ones that make that happen.
We have a strategy for negotiating. We have a team. The commissioners talk with them. We create a strategy. The team goes and works with the other team on the other side. They create offers. They bring it back to the board. You need to have that separation because the team needs to say, hey, I got to take it to the commissioners and see if they agree with this. Then we can say, no, we want to change it. They go back and forth. If the commissioners were at the table, you would have a harder time. You get stuck with the offer that was there at the table. You need that separation so that you can counter offer.
Yeah, I have a question for any or all three of the candidates. I just moved up to Oregon last year from Southern California, and not used to snowy weather here, but one thing that really bothers me is the use of studded tires here. I'd like to know, is there any movement on the table to either ban them or tax them to help pay for the roads? When I'm driving from Sisters down to Bend, there's literally grooves in the roads. I don't even have to steer my car because it just goes straight. And I know Colorado has banned it, and very successfully, so I think that should be on the ballot.
I think we'll defend our right to have studded tires till the day we die. I agree with you. It causes damage on the road. They have taken the steel studs away and have a lighter material for studs. The other challenge is the aggregate in our roads is not as hard as it should be to resist those studs. I think they have this conversation in Salem all the time. And the last time I heard someone talk, it was, let's look at studded tires in the west side of the state and have someone say, you have to have a reason to have studded tires there. Here, if you lived in Lapine, you're at the elevation of Hoodoo. You're at 4,300 feet. That's pretty high, and you got snow and ice on the road all the time. So it's a balance between safety issues, but it's a problem that still needs a solution.
And I agree with Alan on this one. The public sentiment hasn't switched. It's slowly starting to switch, but it does need to be looked at on a statewide basis, and that's something I think where we keep talking to the ODOT officials and our state legislatures over there. But right now, the vast majority of the public supports the right to have studded tires.
Would you guys support a usage tax for that, though?
You mean you pay a little extra to have studded tires? I think you should.
Yeah.
Phil, do you have a comment on that topic?
No, I think they've covered pretty well. Thanks.
I would very much like to thank the three of you for coming today. It's so important. It's so important that we get a chance to meet you and really hear what you stand for. It's so hard to read all the stuff that comes to the House and try and make any kind of educated guess as to who you should be voting for. So we really appreciate you coming and sharing your time with us today. And we have a very important raffle.